We're probably setting records. Kind of sound like somebody, don't I? Um, we're really glad to have you to our webinar. Um, this is probably attended by uh, mostly environmental people, so I'm not going to get too much down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to give you my background just really quickly. I will qualify my background in me a little bit. I do not know it all. I'm learning every day. I've been in the business since early 1980s. I helped build up a remediation company, a full service environmental company, uh, from next to nothing to 120 employees and $122 million in the late 80s to the very early 90s. Then I took my golden parachute and started Phase One Inc. Some of you heard of Phase One Inc. Been in business 28 years. Super successful business. Enjoyed it for a long time. Did tens of thousands of Phase Ones, so I kind of know how to do a Phase One. But I don't know it all. I participated in writing the first standards, the first ASTM standards in approximately 1992, and I've participated on and off with the E50 committee since then, and again I'm participating in the new rewriting of the standards in 2018. Along the way, we've addressed all kinds of things. We keep trying to make it better, but it's kind of like Congress. We have a lot of opposing forces that just try to get things done for themselves. Along the way, I started ERS as a division to supply Phase One with databases and historical information. And that was about a little over 15, 16 years ago, because we're using back then EDR, and we just kept finding too many errors and too many problems and unreliable data and hard to read reports. So we designed reports that were user friendly and easy to use, and got the best data that is absolutely available, and massage that data to the best it could possibly be. So as I'm talking, if you have any questions, just go ahead and anytime ask them on chat. I get going real quick, so please ask all your questions and slow me down a little bit. This is a long webinar, hour and a half, and I've got a lot to cover, and I end up talking really fast. So ask questions, please. In any case, ERS was born. And shortly thereafter, people started receiving the ERS reports in our Phase Ones and reviewing our Phase Ones, and then calling ERS up and saying, hey, can I buy your report? So our competitors started buying our report. Keeping in mind the information on a subject site that you supplied ERS to buy our reports when Phase One was doing Phase Ones, which they don't anymore. Because ERS has grown bigger than Phase One, and we kind of like this business a little better, and we're burnt out on Phase One. But in any case, backtracking a little bit, the main key, people started buying it, and there's no way for Phase One to get your client because it doesn't have your client information. Unlike EDR requires your client information when you use their report writer. So be very careful using their report writer. So the real point being is ERS was founded by environmental professionals to make it easier, faster, quicker, and make it so you save time and money doing Phase One reports, and to cover all the standards and make sure you're covered. So back in 2013, when the last revision of the ASTM happened in all appropriate inquiry, EDR was pushing for requiring their vapor intrusion report be used. And so they sent all their clients in, and that includes all the banks. You need to start requiring your environmental assessment companies to order this vapor intrusion report. And then they told you, you needed to order the vapor intrusion report and wanted to sell it to you and get it going because it was going to be in the ASTM standard. Well, I was on the committee then and we squashed that because really the vapor intrusion report is just a subset of all the data that you get in a rec check or radius search report anyway. You just need to know what you're looking for. And yes, you can pay the 50, 100, 150, it's depending upon your volume for that vapor intrusion report. And is it really going to save you that much time? I don't know what your hourly rate is, but as you're reviewing the rec check report and going through doing a phase one, you can pick, as long as you got your system set up for doing a phase one, it's very easy to get everything you need to know whether there's vapor intrusion. So anyway, I have a lot of experience. I helped write the standards for the SBA for 504 loans and 7A loans, and participated in that. And so I have lots of experience, but again, I don't know it all. I have lots of experience at phase one. Every day I'm learning something new. So if any time along this presentation you know something I don't know, speak up, please. You can always email me, call me. If you got a comment about my webinar and say I'm full of hot air, tell me I'm full of hot air. I've been called everything, every name under the book. I'm man enough to take it, but I'm also smart enough to know that I can always learn new things, and I love learning new things. And I love teaching people, so these webinars are fun for me. So I don't make them very formal, but I do get passionate about what I'm doing and talk real quick. So help slow me down with questions now and then, please. There's a lot of you on board today, and like I said, this is a record-setting webinar for us. It's pretty cool. So let's get going. If anyone doesn't have any questions, we're going to get going. And apparently everybody could hear me because we didn't get any no's from anybody. So that's a good thing. It doesn't always work that well. So first of all, everybody who thinks any one of the standards, ASTM E1527-13, EPA, All Appropriate Inquiry, or the SBA SOP 5010-5J, if any of them cover vapor intrusion. If you think any of those cover vapor intrusion, just send me a yes. Do any of them require and state vapor intrusion? Okay, well, you guys probably realize that was probably a trap. In part one of vapor intrusion, I go over exactly all the standards and what they actually do say. There is nowhere where it requires you to have a separate vapor intrusion report, other than in the SBA, if you're doing a dry cleaner, or the bank's giving a loan on a dry cleaner, a 504 or 7A loan, it is required, and that dry cleaner could be anywhere in history. Even you only saw a reference one day in 1938. It was a dry cleaners. Any reference whatsoever to a dry cleaner, you must perform a phase 1 and phase 2 vapor sampling, period. That became law January 1st, 2018. That's the only real mention of vapor intrusion. Now, those exact words. But does it really require vapor intrusion? And it doesn't really say, the things say that you don't need a separate report. Yes, it does. So how does the standards cover vapor intrusion without saying vapor intrusion? Well, first of all, what is a phase 1? What do you do a phase 1 for? The purpose of a phase 1, to the extent feasibly pursuant to the processes prescribed, this is the ASTM 1527-13, is to identify, recognize environmental conditions in connection with the property. Well, what's the definition of a recognized environmental condition? Basically, a recognized environmental condition is the likely presence, which means pretty much it's there, or the actual presence of it. So presence or likely presence. What is likely present? Isn't that potential? I take it as potential. So the presence or potential of any hazardous substance, or petroleum product in or at the property due to the release to the environment, 2, under the conditions indicative of a release to the environment, or 3, under conditions that pose a material threat or future release to the environment. So poor housekeeping, staining that could leak into the ground, pulls of material, is potential. There was a release, could be a release next door, whatever. But that still doesn't cover vapor intrusion, does it? So let's think about that. Section 3.2.56 of the ASTM 1527 further states that talks about migration. Migration refers to the movement of hazardous substance or petroleum products in any form, including, for example, solid and liquid at the surface or subsurface, and vapor in the substrate or subsurface. That's vapor migration, which is really what? Vapor intrusion. So you have to address it as, is it a recognized concern or not? If there's potential vapor migration or intrusion, potential is a recognized environmental condition, period. Of course, it's got to be of a hazardous substance. Well, where do you get most your vapor intrusion from? Volatile organic chemicals. Now, yes, semi-volatile organic chemicals can too, and there's a few other things that might be able to. But the majority is volatile organic chemicals. What's the main volatile organic chemical that we have vapor intrusion? Well, there's probably 2 of them. So let's say PCE, perchloroethylene, from dry cleaners or other things, and TCE, trichloroethylene or ethene. Any of those are the main ones, but there's dozens of them and lists of them. And in part 1, I went over all the lists and how vapor intrusion can happen and stuff. But these are things you should always be looking for when you're doing your phase 1. So ASTM further states and has a note, which is note number 4. Let me read you note number 4. in the ASTM standard. Vapor migration in subsurface is described in Guide E2600. That's Tony Bonacore. That's EDR. That's when they tried to push through the vapor intrusion reports, and they want you to do modeling and all this other stuff. Modeling happens, separate vapor intrusion happens, phase 2 sampling happens after the phase 1, because you're just trying to find if there's potential vapor intrusion. That's how you're covered. You don't need to do a super vapor intrusion report, and that report's derived from the same materials that we give you in our radius search rec check report. So you don't need it, but right here it states, however, nothing in this practice should be construed to require application of the Guide E2600 standard to achieve compliance with all appropriate inquiries in regard to vapor migration. You don't need a separate report. You need a separate little section in your phase 1, which you should already have in there, that you address vapor migration or vapor intrusion. Call it what you will. But that's fact. That is the news. That is exactly what it is. There is nothing in there in any of the standards that require you to do a separate vapor intrusion report, no matter what our competitors, salespeople try to tell you. So don't get sucked in to spending more money than you need. So that's the background. That's the facts. Does anyone have any questions on that before we dive in to what you look for to come up with your vapor intrusion conclusion? So obviously, vapor intrusion reports, separate reports, modeling, is a waste during a phase 1. They're very useful once you've completed the phase 1. But you're going to recommend your client, you're going to get paid for that report if you recommend it in doing the next step action. Very smart. Remember, we were a bunch of environmental consultants who designed ARS. We're in business to make user-friendly reports and save our consultants time and money. You know why? We save you time and money and give you the best product on the market, and we get your business. We don't have salespeople. We don't spend money on salespeople. We don't need to convince you to use our reports. We want to earn your business. Try us if you don't already use us. I think you'll be really happy. Our customer service is bar none the best in the world. Of course, we don't supply the world, but that's okay. Okay, anyway. So, vapor intrusion. Yes, you need to address vapor intrusion, but really you need to address vapor migration. But calling it either or, in my thought, it's apples and apples, right? It's the exact same thing. So when you do a phase 1, when you sit down to write a phase 1, or you're starting to do a phase 1, you have a whole series of flow chart you've got to go through, or things you've got to do. And I kind of just briefly give you an example, because every one of you already know this. I mean, you've got to order a database, so you get the regulatory information, a 1-mile radius database that, has the distances, gets all those things. And hopefully you order a database that also gets you some historical and some other things. You may do all that work yourself, but our radius search report at $79, and it goes less expensive the more you use. You can do a subscription base. Is very inexpensive. It doesn't take you long to spend $79 worth of labor. And when you see how much information you get in our report, you're just going to go, oh, heck, this is going to save you tons of time. Historical, you really should be able to get your historical at least in your backyard, you should know where all the aerial photos, fire insurance maps, city directories, all that. But as you go through those things, you want to keep a little notepad in front of you that just has on the title, vapor intrusion, potential vapor intrusion. What are the things that could be potential vapor intrusion? Now, in our report writing template, which you can select to receive when you order a rec check report, it's free. It has where you can, in every section where you can address vapor intrusion and then sum that all up to either a recognized environmental condition or not. It makes you address every single thing. It's a very user thing. It doesn't take you a class to learn how to use it. And you don't have to pay for a class to use it. I will teach your people a class on how to use it and how to write a phase 1 using our template. We teach webinars for free to not only our clients, but everything because we want to earn your business. So you've got to go through a stepwise process to pull out all the vapor intrusion thing. So we're going to kind of go, and you find most of your vapor intrusion information in history and site use, right? That's where you find it. And then in the radius search report adjacent. So you got the site walk, you've got history, you got site use, you've got the rec check report, and out of that you're pulling information that's going to tell you whether you have vapor intrusion or not. So let's go through some of these products and see where we pick these things up. So let's start let's start with the rec check report. So here's the rec check report. Pretty simple, really easy to get around. So first of all, check and make sure it's your address. You want to get around real quickly. So it is the right address. Open the bookmarks. From the bookmarks, you can get around to everything. Right away, the first thing I'm going to do if I'm reviewing this, because you should review this prior to doing the site walk. So the site walk person, whether you're doing it or someone else is doing it, you want to tell them what to look for adjacent and on the subject site. And besides what they should already be looking for, like, do they use solvents? Do they use, is it a dry cleaner? All those things they should do on the sidewalk, but you should be also thinking vapor migration. So the first thing you want to do before the sidewalk is open the rec check report, and you get a whole lot of information. So let's make sure first this is our site. This is our site. And real quickly, at a glance, you can see what you've got going on here. So first of all, what do you got going on? Well, yellow is sites that we got information or records from agency, but they didn't definitively tell us whether it's open or closed, or if it's a concern or not, or whatever. It's an open thing that we don't know what it is. So yellow is, you probably ought to check it out. Well, the subject site's listed for yellow. Man, that really tells me something. And then, right across the street, I've got a red. What is a red? Red is an open case. Red can be an open case, a Superfund site, an active cleanup, something like that. Also, you see these little rectangles with these flags on them that are yellow. Those are usually air permits. Not always, but usually air permit. Wow. What's an air permit, guys? Everybody knows an air permit is a license to release hazardous materials into the air. Well, do they just spray hazardous materials in the air? No. It's a volatile organic chemical. Every air permit is a volatile organic chemical of some sort. Maybe it's semi-volatile, but for the most part, volatile organic chemical. Wow. So right next to my site is a volatile organic chemical probably being used. That's interesting. And remember, groundwater flow always goes towards water. So, man, groundwater flow probably goes towards that river. Potential for vapor intrusion for my subject site, maybe. I don't know. And it looks like they've got some spill or open case. That's a big concern right away. I'm already thinking. So the site assessor, I'm going to say, hey, check the adjacent site to the northeast and let me know if there's any monitoring wells or anything. And you're probably going to have to stop by the agency and pick up the file on that site because I want more detail. In the meantime, let's see what detail ERS gave us. So the first thing is we're going to click on Map ID Detail 1, and we're going to see what's on our site. Well, our site is an RV retailer. They sell RV, recreational vehicle. That's really interesting, huh? Why is that a concern? Because they probably repair them and use solvents on site, guys. Right? They probably repair everything. I mean, engines, everything else. So that's a real concern. We need to find out what kind of dealer it is. Trailer and recreational vehicles. It could be anything, right? I happen to already know, but let's go to one other map real quick, which is a really nice map, site location map. Look at that. Let's zoom in on it and look at our site just a little bit better. Wow, what's it look like to you where that star is? It looks like they deal with boats, and so we know they repair boat engines. You can't be a boat dealer without repairing boat engines and taking care of the warranty. So right there, they use solvents to clean grease and stuff off. Potential vapor intrusion. What do I want my assessor to look for? Staining, storage. What do they do with their used product? I didn't see any manifest listing or RCRA listing. So that's map detail 1. Let's see what that red site is, because that's really, should be really a concern to me. I'm still zoomed in. I better zoom out a little bit. Okay, all facilities. That's just all sites, contaminated sites. ERP open. Oh, it's got an open case. What's it open for? Well, look at it, how it says more details link. You click on this link and there might be 50 pages of details, and those are off in the cloud, so it doesn't make your report so big. Also, you've got a link right here to go see the details for yourself on the agency website. So very quickly you can find out why it is listed under the all facilities or ERP open. But it's an open case. I already looked it up, just so you know. So what's it open for? Well, I'm going to keep reading a little bit. RCRA spill, let's see. Historic ERP, historic fines, 1998. Oh, man. Historic machine shop, steel fabricators. Man, a lot of oil spillage and using a lot of oils and solvents. RCRA, they just disposed of hazardous materials. Still historic. Status, still operating. Lust closed. They had a leaking underground storage tank, but it's closed. So why are they still open? Conditionally exempt small quantity generator. Well, they definitely has handled hazardous materials. So the point being, you look through all these details, and you may need to pull this file. But my guess is the spill is still open. and it hasn't been closed, and you can get the file information from them, and boy, if that was the solvents they use, I'd be concerned. I also want you to know, it says that this site is uphill, 2 feet higher than our site. Now that's not huge, but that's still a concern, right? So now I'm starting to think they use volatile organic chemicals. They have an air permit. And why do I need to go look at the air permit real quick and make sure they have an air permit? We map air permits. Interesting. Look at that mapped air permit. Well, so their thing, their little flag, isn't particularly an air permit. This is the only air permit. And that's far enough away from our site. So that flag isn't always air permit. It kind of sums up a bunch of surplus stuff. So, but it's already got its problems. It had a leaking underground storage tank. We don't know if it says it's closed, but is it closed to today's standard? And did any of it leak onto our site? I don't know. But we're pretty sure they use volatile organic chemicals because they were fabricators and they're manufacturers, and they still manufacture. Without reading every single line, which we really don't have time for, we can't. But you're starting to get the picture. You got to start looking at these things. And so this tells you what you want. Now, if one of these potential air permits, open permits, was right next to our star, you'd want your site assessor to look at the adjacent site. Now, basically, that's all EDR does in their vapor intrusion report. They list all the RCRA listings for disposal, any of the open cases for volatile organic chemicals, and then this, and they can't catch them all because they don't always list the volatile organic chemicals. And they list the permits in that, and then kind of give you a probability. And then in the limits and liabilities, they tell you not to rely on it. You need to make your own decision and review the material. Well, review the material. We have it all in here, and you don't need a separate report to tell you to review the material. And EDR doesn't stand behind their data. Every single one of our reports is insured for $1 million of environmental errors and emissions. $1 million that you're required to carry. By law, you have to have $1 million of environmental professional liability or errors and emissions insurance as of January 1st, 2018, guys. Because you're an EP, and EPs have to have the insurance of their company. So the point being is, if you put out a phase 1 and it has a radius search report or vapor intrusion report that doesn't have insurance backing it, and none of EDR's does, guess what? Because you have to have $1 million insurance on that whole report, you're taking the liability. Good luck, guys. You may never get nicked for it, but do you want to take that chance? And you're paying more for their reports that they don't stand behind. So remember that. So again, this is our radius search report. These are the things you can look for real quickly. And set up your site assessor to pick it out. Now, your site assessor should have a field checklist that's designed so they check it or make little notations all the way through doing their site inspection so they don't miss anything. Like adjacent site, like hazardous material storage, is it in good condition? Little arrow where they took the photo and what direction. They should take photos of everything. Well, that should be all set up. And so they're looking out for little paint spray booths. They're looking out for solvents. They're looking out for anything that may be a concern for vapor intrusion and everything else doing a phase 1. They're your eyes and ears, and you need to set them up with what to look for and use in our report. So keep in mind as you're going through this, you're writing little notes down because you're going to use this when you write the Phase 1 environmental site assessment to sum it up. You're going to use all this information. So the next thing is we're going to go through the aerials. Why? History. Remember, history tells you a whole lot about a property. So let's go look at the aerial photos real quick. And this is an aerial photo pack from ERS. And what we do is we either put the actual parcel map for your site and lay it over your site so you can see where your site is, or we put a big red box so you know your site is in that red box. In this case, we had a good parcel map, laid it over. We make sure it really doesn't interfere with anything you want to see. But you can see in this that it's a boatyard. And obviously, a boatyard does repair. So you've got to start looking for vapor intrusion things and chemicals they use and that kind of thing. It's really going to depend on their housekeeping of their chemicals, their housekeeping where they do the engine repair, and that there's no heavy staining and all that kind of stuff. And they have no record, which they don't, of having any kind of spill, leak, or cleanup. But here's that manufacturing plant across the street. You can see everything flows down to this way. So you've got to start thinking about it. Anything on this side so much lower than here that it really doesn't matter. And you could see that in the topo maps, and we'll get there real quick. So what else is important in these aerials and what else to look for? Well, really, they're, for the most part, aerials aren't going to show you vapor intrusion except for usually rooftops you can't tell the use, but in this case you can see it holds boats. And you're going to confirm boat repair other ways by city directors and everything. And all this facts is going to add up to your concern for a recognized environmental condition for potential vapor intrusion. So let's just zoom through this a little bit, and you're going to see that that's pretty much the only thing you're going to find on the aerial photos. But the topographic maps are going to tell us a whole lot more. Now look, this is a real old aerial photo. I don't know what year it is, but kind of see this right through here? Someone who's reviewed a lot of aerial photos is going to know right off what that is. I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. So let's go to the USGS maps. USGS maps are just, for the most part, very poor quality. This is one of the newest ones. What year was that photo? Let's look real quick. 1937. That's, you don't get much older than that you can see anything in. No, we don't put all our photos in a box, a view thing, whatever you want, light box, whatever you want to call it. And so they're all overlaid, and you got to play with them, adjust them, and mess with them all the time. We put a red box around them. You go right to your site. You do your review. You move on. You can see how they change with time. It's pretty cool. Don't waste your time. I found that a waste of time. Here again, you can get your elevation. You can check it. You can see it goes from here down to here. There's no doubt the slope of the ground. Here again, that's where your box is. Here again, I'm not seeing much. Oh my God, what is that, guys? That's a creek. The creek runs right through my property. And it runs right from that manufacturing site. And they had a spill. Could have set up for vapor intrusion, or surely contamination from a volatile organic chemical. So that's what you find on aerials and topos for the most part. Let's move on to fire insurance maps. I think fire insurance maps are fairly self-explanatory, but let's touch bases on them real quick. Because we're about halfway through with our time. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to take a sip of water. Remember, you got this notepad that has a headline vapor intrusion. You just mark down creek running through property from manufacturing plant that's had a spill in a leaking underground storage tank and handles hazardous materials. I'd be freaking out. And been there since the dawn of man. Fire insurance maps. Let's see what we see here. Again, these are the years of fire insurance maps. We make it really easy for you to review. We overlay the parcel map because you know how addresses and everything change. And we make the parcel map translucent so it doesn't mess up your line. So let's see what year this is. 69. So right now we still have the manufacturing plant. We can zoom in on this, read all this stuff. But what I'm really interested is in what am I going to get from my subject site? Well, across the street, I got electroplating, but that's so far downhill. I mean, it's a huge slope here. And I know on this site, this is about a 12-foot drop, and it's almost at ocean level. So that's not a concern, but let's zoom in on this just a little bit. And what do we have? What does that say? Auto repair and painting. Of course, that's a concern. So they did auto repair, and they probably had a paint spray booth, and if they didn't, it doesn't matter. They used solvent, paint thinners, all kinds of things. Big concern. Over here, garage. Adjacent to the site, machine shop, but that happens to be part of the site right now. In current day, that's part of the site. Big concern. I got all kinds of vapor intrusion concerns here, and I'm noting them down. Definitely a potential for vapor intrusion on our subject property. So let's go to an older year. That was 69. Let's see what this is. That's 51. Racine Fuel Company. We even have a railroad spur onto the site. A fuel company. Well, we have no idea what kind of fuels, but we also have United Fuel and Supply down here. Now, it's probably more heating oil because of the time frame than gasolines, 51, but there's probably still gasoline, which is a volatile organic chemical. It's got constituents, right? Benzene, toluene, xylene, methylbenzene. They could also be on the site. Man, right away, red flags. I'm thinking this site needs to be sampled. We got creek, we got everything, and you better sample for volatile organic chemicals, for vapor, just in case. Across the street, we still got that machine shop, still there in 59. Going straight across to our site. All these are residences or stores. Dwelling, store, doesn't mean anything. But look at that. And we have the parcel map, so we know exactly where we're at. So that is 51. Let's go back to 33. What is it? West Shore Lumber Company. What do you think about West Shore Lumber Company? Is there any volatile organic chemicals you can get from West Shore Lumber Company? Anyone got any ideas what volatile organic or possible vapor intrusion chemicals could a lumber company use? Anybody know? Turpentine, very good. And lumber companies always sold paint too, so thinners, right? Mineral spirits. Creosote was the one I was looking for. David, perfect. Creosote is it. Why creosote? Well, in the old days, they used to dig a pit in the dirt and throw all their posts into a pit and fill that pit full of creosote and soak their posts for, gosh, days, if not weeks. Creosote, one of the worst chemicals in creosote, which all you old people, hippies, should know about, contain PCP, the hallucinogen, which was volatile, highly bad chemical. I mean, it's hazardous as heck. So anyway, that was one of the things. And so good, really good. So look what you learned. You got another. Remember, you're looking for potential vapor intrusion into your buildings or into your property. Guess what? If any of this was spilled or they did any of this, there's potential for vapor intrusion. And you can't tell by just reading the name or walking the site in most cases whether there's a vapor intrusion potential for your site. This tells you there is, therefore, a recognized environmental concern. Also, when I sampled this site, I would sample along this fur line because lots of times the old engines and stuff leaked a lot of diesel and fuel and all kinds of other things. And so both these spur lines are running onto the site. So it would be a concern to me. And since groundwater is so shallow, because we're right next to the water, I would also put in a groundwater monitoring well up here, or just do a groundwater grab sample and see if you find anything. Because remember, you're trying to protect your client from any environmental liability. And there's a lot of neat things on this, and I'd go through that. I do teach another class that I go over all the things and how to interpret fire insurance maps, aerial photos, and all kinds of things if you want any of your people to attend. 1908, we've got the same thing, West Shore Lumber. Newt, phencyldine, pentachlorophenol. There you go, PCP. Why are you sampling on a phase 1? I'm not. You're going to do a recognized environmental concern and recommend a phase 2. Now, one of the other laws that went into effect January 1st, 2018 by the SBA, any work done by an environmental professional, whether it's an RSRA, a transaction screen, anything where they give a recommendation, the bank, in order to get their loan approved, must do what the recommendation is. Must do the phase 2, must do the phase 1 of whatever's recommended. Because they got tired of the banks arguing, saying they don't need it, and taking their work and time to try to figure it out. In most cases, they did need it. They have to follow the recommendation. A phase 1 doesn't do any sampling. It would be a recommendation. It's not doing sampling. So, thank you, Lex. Thank you, Michael Carlson. Okay, so again, we're just still West Shore Lumber Company. We've got coal down here in Woodyard. So obviously, this is really old. I think it's 1909 or 1908. Really old. That's kind of incredible. A lot of information. Whoa, Green Engineering's still up there. There's that machine shop, right? But it's not as big a facility anymore. Looks like they had some tanks right here. That's interesting. But then again, we're already concerned with this area. So in our phase 1, we should address this. That's why you get adjacent sites. and for vapor intrusion, that should be one of the facts that all combined probably are going to make you do a rec for vapor intrusion, potential vapor intrusion, and recommend doing vapor sampling on the site. So let's look at this one. This should be the last one. No, we go all the way back to 84, 87. Let's just do the oldest one, 84. And what do we have here? Again, we just have West Shore Lumber, and we have Racing Planing Mill Company, Sash and Doors and Blinds. I don't see anything where we're going to grab any more vapor stuff. But look at all these above ground storage tanks. What the heck? So this is before they kept any records. So I would kind of zoom in on that, see if I can see something. Beans, air dry room, packing and finishing, leather company. Oh my gosh, a leather company. That's bad. Tanning hides uses really nasty chemicals and highly volatile chemicals, and they're working over this creek that runs over to our site, which seems to be maybe goes in piping or something. Wow, that would concern me big time. Another reason to do vapor intrusion sampling, vapor sampling. And that chemicals could have migrated onto the subject property. Wow, neat stuff. You don't always get fire insurance maps, but when you do, they're great. Marcy, you know, there's no standard that says you have to recommend vapor sampling inside a structure, but if you know you've got a vapor issue on the site, you would want to recommend doing vapor sampling inside the structure to make sure nobody inside the structure is getting contaminated currently, to protect who's ever buying the thing. You don't want, remember, you're trying to deal with liability. And so chances, you know, unless it's a really big spill and, you know, there's no vapor barrier or anything under the slab or whatever, you probably don't have a big vapor intrusion thing. But if you've got a basement or anything, then it's always good just to recommend sampling. If you were doing a SBA phase one in some of the banks, if you found vapor, if you found a vapor issue or volatile organic chemical contamination, subsurface contamination on the site, they would require you to do, before doing the loan, they'd require you to do vapor sampling inside the building. So I think as a consultant, it's something you should recommend or know, because you're the one who's the professional and should be covering their bases and your bases to make sure, you know, remember you're doing it for liability. Leather processor. Yeah, leather processor is crazy. Thank you. Gotta go. Might be in touch with you about this later. No problem, Marcy. Thank you for attending. And we'll teach this class again. And anytime you have any questions, call me up. Any time you have any doubts or anything, call me up. Again, we teach a class on doing sidewalks and how to use our templates and stuff and how to write phase one report. Remember, we don't know it all. Hopefully you just pick up some 10% new information, and guess what? You gain something for free. A little bit of time. Okay, so let's go forward. We just covered fire insurance maps. Let's go to the city directories. So city directories really give you history. Lots of times what was done to the site. So we're really looking for 950 Erie Street, and Douglas Avenue. And we got a lot of city directories going back to 1901, and we're not going to look at them all. Basically because we want to make sure we get through most everything. So again, all you're doing is picking up history. So you're trying to find what the site was used for. And so in this case, we're looking up Erie Street, 950 Erie Street, right? Here's Erie Street right here. And our site, 950, is Racine Riverside Marine Inc. There you go. Marine Inc., they sell boats, they sell repair boats, they do all kinds of things. Potential vapor intrusion, especially when you go out and do the sidewalk, you see engine repair, staining, poor housekeeping, and solvent usage. So that just is another fact. So you keep adding these facts up, and then you sum those up, and you can make a recognized environmental condition concern, and you've got the facts back in it so you can show your client. Do you know for a fact there's vapor, volatile organic chemical contamination in the subsurface? No, you don't. But all the signs are there that it could be potential. And a recognized environmental condition is potential environmental contamination on the subject's site, or intrusion of it, or migration of it. So that's really, really important. So again, we're looking at a city directory for Douglas Avenue. Now, what addresses are we looking for Douglas Avenue? Well, I kind of forgot because of my old mind. Douglas Avenue is adjacent street. So I'm going to look on my map and my rec check report and see what addresses. And I could have also picked those addresses up in the fire insurance map if I wanted to look at them there. So we're looking at 1022. 1022 Douglas Avenue. So we pop back to Douglas Avenue, and here we go. We got the residences going south, and we got residents going north. But before Jackson Street is no listing. That means they didn't return the card. And that happens all the time. And so let's go to another Douglas Avenue until we find something, and I can show you. So air service, heating, and air conditioning. Heating contractors. That's interesting. That's across the street in that location we were talking about. So let's go down to 2006. And it's right here. Again, city refrigeration. Refrigeration equipment. Controls and system. It's interesting. They're kind of manufacturing. They handle Freon. Let's go down. We're skipping Erie because we already know what our site is. Again, 1120. We've got Bell City Refrigeration refrigerator contractors. And then a lot of residences as we get older. But eventually we're going to come across that green manufacturing. So remember, this is just, again, supports that refrigeration Freon is a volatile organic chemical. Now, obviously, it volatilizes real quick and not much goes in the ground unless they have a real large spill. let's go back to the oldest city directory there is, because they get really neat sometimes. First of all, there's our site, West Shore Lumber, Erie Avenue. And there's Douglas. What do we have? 1,130 Green Manufacturing Company stamping. Really? That's interesting. They stamp things. They use a lot of oil and cooling and all kinds of things. So right there, city directories give you all kinds of things that help you identify whether volatile organic chemicals, and they're just one of the things that are going to help you. West Shore Lumber again. What are we on? 1935. Let's go way back. 1906. I love that. Let's see. Is that Erie? There's Erie. We're 950, right? Oh my gosh. West Shore Lumber Company. Remember we saw that in the fire insurance map. Creosote. Douglas Avenue. We're looking in the 1,000. Not much. 950, we got a blacksmith, but that's across the street. Right now, all we're showing are the two old saloons. That's interesting. Douglas Avenue. Nothing. We only have a 1,200 block. Our block isn't shown anymore. So that's the end of it. So directories, you just get more history to substantiate why you think vapor intrusion is a wreck. We did the air plume map. What I want to show you is, remember I talked about the air plume map? The reason I have this separate map in there, this is of Boston. This air plume map is bad. Remember, what we do is we take the air permit, the address where the air permit is, we go to NOAA, the National Weather Service, and we pick up where the prevailing wind direction is for this area, and then we plot this dispersion cone. Now, if I was working for a developer or somebody buying residential high-rise right here, where my cursor's moving around, you know, I might mention that. But look at all those VOCs being mapped. It's crazy, right? Vern, thank you for attending. So pretty much, this mapped air permits with potential dispersion is one of your most practical things to see, and easiest thing to see if vapor intrusion is a potential for your site, because there's all sites that use volatile organic chemicals. And so this is a prime example, and you want to make sure you use it. So keep in mind your interview and questionnaires, your sidewalk checklist, your site photos are all things that give you clues and facts that then you pull up and you come to your conclusions whether there's the potential. You're only looking for potential. You don't need a vapor intrusion report to tell you you got the potential. Now, if the vapor intrusion told you for a fact, the vapor intrusion report, that you had a vapor intrusion problem, that'd be a different thing, and you could stand behind it, but it doesn't. So you might as well do this. You're paying for nothing, and you're already being paid to do this. Do this. Don't spend your money. You still got to review that report. Review this report, and review your historical and everything looking for vapor intrusion. Okay, I think I just about covered everything. Let me read my list a little bit. Does anybody have any questions? That went pretty quick. I taught you how to navigate our report, navigate the rec check, what to look for. If we do give a class on our RecCheck radius search report and on how to uh, uh, get around it and use it really easily. We really teach a whole class on how to save time and money doing your phase one. And I hope I can give you some little tips that'll speed you up. You may already know them all and you may not. Very shortly, uh, we're coming out with an app. We actually just got approved by Apple for our app, and it's being listed now. And basically, you can take your Android phone or your iPhone, you can download our app, and it's free. And all you do is click on the button standing in front of any property, and it'll plot all the main important listings right around your site, adjacent to your site and your site, right there on your phone. And so basically it prepares an email with your lat long, your location, sends it to us, we run the report, send it back to you via email, and you pick it up out of your email and look at it. And it's just basically a map color coded like that. So when your site assessor is doing the site walk, they can look around the perimeter and see what they've got. Right now, at first, it's going to be free to everybody. Eventually, it'll be just free for our clients who use us. But it's just a quick and dirty to help the site assessor know what they're getting into. Also, know whether they're going to have to pick up some files and look at it. And so they can pick over the fence of adjacent site, and maybe your subject site's listed, and right away you know what to look for. So Taryn asked a question, are mapped air permits required in all phase one report? No, not at all. They're not required in anything. And in fact, when you order one of our radius search reports, we're the only ones who have it. It's the first thing. We designed it, made it. We have a lot of the agencies who give air permits, the air quality boards, they use our map, but it's free. It comes with every RecCheck report, and you can opt not to have it by checking a box and say, I don't want it. I don't know why you wouldn't want that information, but it is valuable information. And, you know, I think it's a reason why people use us, because we do supply that information. But it is not required by any standard or by any agency or by any bank or by anybody that I know of. I wish it was. It'd be great on sales, but we haven't tried to do that. We don't try to do things that. It is very interesting. You've got to really take it all in stride, kind of. Right now, air permits are issued only to evaluate and to control smog. So they only allow so many air permits of certain chemicals to go in. No one is evaluating the downstream effects, if there is any. It could get so diluted, of the air downstream on people, or the commingling of these chemicals, or the channeling between the buildings. You know, does it concentrate or does it disperse? What does it do? Nobody's ever evaluated the health effects. Basically, nobody cares. And so, you know, it's just another issue, kind of like when asbestos came out. Everybody put their head in the ground and tried to ignore asbestos for the longest time. And then finally they had to address it, and still people don't address it. So, you know, it's pretty typical, but we're the first and only ones who have this. We have actually copyrighted this and are in the process of trademarketing. So it's pretty cool. So any other questions? I think I've explained pretty much everything. We've got another few minutes if you want to talk about anything else, or want me to go over anything else. If you do volume, we'd love to work with you. Ordering is really simple. If you have multiple sites, we can bid on multiple sites, even if we have a deal with you. Packages, uh, our packages for the standard pack is $289, includes aerials, fire insurance maps, city directories. It's pretty cool. Our website, you can order everything, get sample reports, and of course, we'd be glad to give you a sample report. We will train your people to use our reports, use the data, use our uh, report writer. It's really simple. The report writer wrote tens of thousands of reports and it's been accepted. And report it generates been accepted by every single bank in the nation. And we can alter that report so that it has your name, your logo, your terms and conditions, and your standard answers and anything you want automatically in it every time you order a report. So you just need to work with us. We'll work with you and make your life easier, better, faster, and make sure you get all the data. We believe our data is the best in the business. We have pretty much touched all the data in one way or another, mostly through sophisticated algorithms to match up like sites when there are bad addresses. So we've mapped every single site that it's possible to map. Now, every unmapped site, have we looked up every unmapped site? That's an impossibility. It's an impossibility to physically look up every site. And let me give you an example. There are 4 million plus Lust records in the nation. Just in the Lust database, that's huge, right? 4 million records. If someone was to look up the location of every Lust site and verify it, it'd take about 10 minutes a location or about 6 an hour. So at 6 an hour, because you really can't look them up and verify the that long any quicker than that. If 10 minutes, and that's pretty quick, really. I mean, that's you're being good. That means it's going to take, you can do 6 an hour. That means you can do 50 in a day. That means it'd take 80,000 days for one person. Now, 10,000 person team, 10 person team would take 800 days or approximately 3.1 years. 10 people, 3.1 years just to verify, physically verify the lat long for just the Lust records. Think about it. We have over 3,000 databases. Impossibility. So if somebody's telling you that, don't buy it. It isn't true. So let me give you another thing. You get our reports in minutes. EDR, you get their reports within 24 hours, their database radius search report, because they say they check every single report. Well, we think EDR as an average does about 820 reports a day, whether it's banking, environmental, whatever. If you spend approximately 15 minutes looking at the maps and looking at the details and just making sure everything visually looks good, feels good, everything's plotted right, the site is plotted correctly, it's going to take you about 15 minutes. So one person can really look at 32 reports per day. One person. It'd take 57 people a day reviewing reports to review 1,820 reports that ADR puts out. Do you really believe they have 57 people reviewing reports before they go out? I highly doubt it. They have a lot of mistakes, so I highly doubt it. So think about that. That's food for thought, people. Okay. If you have any other questions, let me know. If you ever have any questions on someone else's reports, need to get started, want to sign up with us, so you can get billed, you can charge by credit card. It's no big deal. Or you can get billed. It's your choice. We don't force you to use a credit card like I've heard some people say. We will bill you. We do make you sign a one-page promise to pay with your credit card number on it in case you don't pay. But that's about it. It's no big deal. We don't require it if you tell us you can't do that because you work in a big company. We work with you. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I've enjoyed having you. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. I'm going to end the webinar if there's no questions. Thank you, guys. I hope it was really helpful. When the app comes out, download it, use it. It's going to come out in beta version. So if you have any bugs, don't get frustrated. We're going to make it better and better and better. Right now, it takes about 4 minutes to get the report via email. Most of that's because of the emailing. But we're really, really excited about it because it's a great tool for you. So thank you very much. Have a great day.